Board of Election Commissioners of the City of Chicago, constituting ex officio the Electoral Board to hear and pass upon objections to nomination papers of candidates for the offices of Mayor, City Clerk, City Treasurer, and Alderman in the City of Chicago. Good afternoon. My name is Marisel Hernandez. Seated to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain, and to my right is Commissioner William Kresse. Next item are motions. We don't have any. We have Rule 20 hearings, and the first one is 19 EB ALD-146, Robert Bank and Ronald Ernst versus John Arena, Alderman 45th Ward of the City of Chicago. Is anyone here? No? Okay, we will briefly pass it. The next item, are we calling these two together, Adam?
They could be called together.
Yes. Okay. It's 19 EB MUN-004, Sajan Kuriakosi, Harriet Mims and Shantia Kindle versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, and 19 EB MUN-008, Richard Barnett versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, Mayor, City of Chicago. Is there anyone here? Any representative of the parties? I'm sorry?
I'm here for the objector.
Oh, you can, well.
Right. We don't claim to participate in the motion.
Oh,
If
you're just
needed,
here
I'm
as an observer? Okay. Well, it is 2:47, and we will briefly pass this one again. The next one is 19 EB ALD-149, Kevin Bailey versus Nicole Johnson, Alderman 20th Ward of the City of Chicago. Good morning, afternoon, gentlemen. If you could just identify yourselves for the record.
Good afternoon. Andrew Vinco for the candidate, Nicole Johnson.
Kevin Bailey for the objector. Pro se.
And you don't have an attorney, right?
I do not.
I just checked. Okay. And who filed the objection in this matter? I mean, the Rule 20?
I did.
Okay. We will proceed.
So I filed the Rule 20 because I believe there has been a number of issues that have been overlooked, witnesses precluded, the candidate making a number of allegations and the board proving it for them. And I've outlined that very clearly in my Rule 20 motion. Just to identify some of the procedural history, when we started the proceedings December 10th, the candidate responded, appeared through Mr. Finko here. We both waived service. During that same proceeding, the respondent said that they would issue a motion to strike by 5 p.m. the following day, pursuant to Rule 5. The respondent did not timely file with all parties. And that was how I responded on December 12th, stating technical discussion on the Rule 5 proceedings and what happens if you do not measure up to the strict rules that the board upholds, and your motion shall be stricken. You waive your right. And in the email exchange, the respondent here says, "I did send it," and he attached a copy to it. But again, when we got to the hearing on December 14th, the hearing officer pulled out a letter that said, after we were all on the record, we pulled out a letter that identified the electronic transmission between the respondent Finko, the board, and himself. The email address that was on file on that document was the incorrect letter, or the incorrect email associated with the objector, Kevin Bailey, myself. And I stated that. And so there was a whole discussion, and the hearing was focused on the technicalities and striking that. So the hearing officer said, well, take your time, respond, we'll come back and come to it. I said, yeah, but I object. I wish we could just, put the rules together, go forward. When we leave, I issue a notice, a motion to reconsider. We come back, they ignore the motion, they don't even mention it. Have to bring it up at the next hearing. They said, well, the candidate's respondent, or lawyer, says they object on what grounds? I said on the fact that Rule 5 is not properly allocated or applied. Hearing officer grants the motion because Rule 5 was not firmly held, and reconsidered for a couple seconds and continued on. So that was all the way up to a couple of the hearings. When I actually responded to the candidate's motion to strike and dismiss, when I looked upon what they submitted, there was no attachments to support the allegations that they allege. The case, which is Daniel V. Daly, is in no way, shape, or form representative of the current case. And they use that as a foundation to stand on. Daly and Daniel V. Daly, the objector, was hesitant to come in. They testified that they didn't think that they had to review any records or do any due diligence. They just allege it, and the board approves it for them. They had to subpoena, and the objector was totally just inconsistent with good character when it comes to a good faith objection. And in this case, this is no way, shape, or form similar. I'm pro se. I admitted that we did do a records, not a records examination, but we examined the petition sheets, and we provided not only testimony to that, but there were 2 witnesses that were precluded during the hearing to talk about it that were present. There was also the fact that we added evidentiary support, unlike the Daniel V. Daly case, which includes first-in-time objections, complete with affidavits that are sworn to, signed, and notarized. There's evidentiary support of the finding of duplicates. There's evidentiary support of the out of the wards. And the out of the wards are like 576, I don't know the exact number at the moment. The first-in-time objections are in the 300s. The duplicates are not almost 200. All of this is evidentiary support that was not presented in Daniel V. Daly case that the respondent here has stood so firm on. Furthermore, as he begins in their motion to strike, there was no evidence, all allegation, and a number of, it's interesting to think that, and how could this person have so much time? And I also mentioned that I had a team, a group of people to help me, between 10 and 20 people at any given time to analyze this. But all of that information, the witness testimony, and the evidentiary support supporting the objection that I put forth was not heard by the hearing officer. There has been continuous Rule 5 violations that were waived, and given the experienced counsel here latitude, he not only filed his motion to strike untimely, parts of his reply was untimely as well. When his objection to my subpoenas was untimely. Everything about this entire engagement has been giving the respondent all types of latitude in the frame of his justice, and to apply the rules strictly to me, given no latitude even though I'm pro se. Furthermore, the hearing officer identified a sample records examination that I objected to. He said he would cherry pick 2 particular objections that he would try to find a trend in. And honestly, if you only pick 2 things to take a look at, you have no other recourse to find a trend with the 2 things that you're looking at. I asked for a complete records examination, complete with all the objections, so we can see the entirety of the picture. But that wasn't the case.
Okay, so Mr. Bailey, I understand that the hearing officer found that you basically objected to every signature in the petition. Is that right?
I objected to a lot of the signatures, but every signature is incorrect.
And the hearing officer found that you had failed to make a good faith inquiry. Is that right?
And from his findings, but he
Yes.
also precluded witnesses and ignored testimony as well as evidentiary support that has been provided before.
Okay, and then, but I just want to make sure we have, because that was the main issue, I believe, when, upon which the hearing officer decided that the objections were not, you did not make the objections in good faith, because I believe every signature was objected to. Is that, but
That is not correct.
what it, okay.
Every signature was not objected to.
What, do you know the percentage of signatures that
I
you
don't know.
objected to?
I do not. I do not off the top of my head, but I have, let me go down to this one.
Okay,
I have-
but he did do a sampling of your objections, and the sampling, found that 17.6% of the objections were sustained, right? That was his finding?
But in his findings,
I'm just asking you about that particular question.
I don't have his numbers in front of me to verify, but
Okay. Is there anything more? And because, right, what you're doing here is you're objecting to the hearing officer's report and recommendation. Is there anything else?
sure. I mean, this was the exact classic case of where in Daniel v. Daly, where someone made some allegations and they expected the board to prove them. Except in this case, this is exactly what the candidate and the hearing officer did. The candidate had no evidence at all, just wild allegations, and whenever that random records examination was chosen, it happened to be 50% of the sheets that the candidate already presented before. How can it be random if you already know 50% of the outcome?
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Pinker?
Well, the candidate concurs with the hearing examiner's recommendation. This is one of 13 objections that this objector filed, which was a pretty busy time period for him. The evidence that is before the Electoral Board is a sampling. The hearing examiner did not cherry pick anything. In fact, the hearing examiner said the Electoral Board will undertake a sampling and will provide the report. The report was completed, and there was that approximately 83% of the objections that Mr. Bailey lodged were overruled. So out of the first 33 or so pages, I believe there was easily over 200, I don't know the exact number, well over 200 signatures were found to be valid. And this was from 10%. And if you were to apply that 17% sustain rate, even presuming everything Mr. Bailey says is true, this candidate would still have enough signatures to get on the ballot, because there wouldn't be enough objections asserted. And I think the important part is the real objective evidence is the recap. The records exam for the appendix recap sheets. 83% overruled is a pretty bad statistic. If you're trying to pass a test and you get 83% of the questions wrong, you're not passing, you're not even trying. So I think the evidence that we have, that the Electoral Board has, is that this candidate did not try. It is directly contradictory to what he says, because if Mr. Bailey did in fact review the records, as was advocated in Daniel versus Daly, that the records have to be reviewed at the Board of Election Commissioners. Had he done that, he certainly would not have made the objections on the appendix recap sheets that he made. It's a pretty clear-cut case where, if you have a 17% pass rate, you're not passing. This objection fails from the get-go. And if the appendix recap was not prepared in a good faith manner, the rest of the objection falls away, because this candidate put in 2,727 signatures. She'll have far, far in excess of the minimum of 473 required. I would ask that this Electoral Board adopt the hearing examiner's recommendation and strike the objection. Thank you.
Mr. Russell, do you have any comments on this?
Madam Chair, you asked the question as whether 100% of the signatures were objected to. The answer is no. While we were sitting here, I just started searching through the appendix recap sheets. I got up to page 66. Having gotten through those first 66 recap sheets, I found 4 signatures that were not objected to. There's 10 lines per recap sheet. So that means that in the first 6,600, excuse me, in the first 660 objections, there would be 4 signatures not objected to. I stopped here on sheet 66, where there are 2 objections against every signature on the sheet, lines 4 through 10, even though in the final column on the right, it's listed as blank. So they appear to have objected against the registration and the signature not being genuine, while also finding those lines to be blank. So it's fair to say that the vast majority of the signatures were objected to. The record shows that the hearing officer's directive for a random sample of 10% simply requests for a sample record examination of 10% of candidates' 334 sheets, or 33 sheets. That's the only quote-unquote cherry picking, as the objector would like to call it, that the hearing examiner performed. Our staff then just decided to do the objections for the first 33 sheets. Now, the objector has also tried to state that the objections were quote-unquote cherry-picked as to the kinds of objections that were ruled on. The staff did rule on every single objection within the appendix recap sheets that was lodged, except for what Mr. Bailey refers to as the first-in-time objections. The objection there is that this petition signer had previously signed some other candidate's petition. That's not an issue that's ever dealt with in a records exam. So it wasn't cherry picking that we didn't analyze those. It's just that that doesn't happen in a records exam. The hearing officer found that the objector's petition appeared on its face to be a bad faith objection. That is why he sent it to the random sampling, and with approximately 82% of the signature objections being overruled, that is a woefully low number. There are several cases in the history of the board where even lower overrule rates than that resulted in the finding of a shotgun objection. So there's the evidence to support what the hearing officer observed in the face of the objections. And I do believe the record is strong in finding this is a bad faith objection.
I object to the fact that they did not test out of the wards nor the duplicates. They looked at 2. And the person that can testify to that was at the board records examination.
Well, any further questions?
I do have further parts. We're keeping this in the context of 2 objections. Every shotgun case that has been in this index has come from photocopying some dubious activity. They didn't come with witnesses or anything else. In this case, it's totally different from that, as well as one of my objections to the genuineness of the circular takes out 1,122 signatures. Nothing about my objection has been shotgun or without care. That's how you can understand to check the circulator signatures that the pages are out of sequence, or even get the time to do affidavits to cross-reference. None of that is represented at all of anything shotgun.
I think we have heard from the parties, and Mr. Bailey, you know, you're here, pro se, doing this, and I applaud you. You've laid out your arguments very well, but as you can see now, we're running this as quickly and efficiently as possible, because we have a ballot to print, and we need to move, these cases along. So when you're talking about filing objections, in the first those pages that Mr. Lasker mentioned, that virtually there were all but 4 signatures were contested on various grounds. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I think, I hope you're involved in this process more often, but I can't help but agree with the hearing officer's report that these objections to these particular registered voters was not performed in good faith.
So the concluded testimony me as well.
I think I'm done with,
Madam Chair, it would be common that the objector, the named objectors would testify, and here we have the named objector who's been involved in the case at every single. So his statements as the person who verified this objector's petition, his statements to the hearing officer are the testimony that would normally be brought in when it's an attorney, for example, representing named objectors who are not otherwise present at the hearings. It is common a candidate would want to bring in those objectors to testify about their verification of this objection. In this case, we did have an objector.
is there a motion to deny the Rule 20 motion and adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendation and overrule the objector's petition for not having been filed in good faith, and enter a final decision in favor of the candidate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and it is therefore ordered that the objections, that the Rule 20 motion is denied, and the objections of Kevin Bailey to the nomination papers of Nicole Johnson, candidate for the office of Alderman for the 20th Ward of the City of Chicago, are hereby overruled, and said nomination papers are hereby declared valid, and the name of Nicole Johnson, candidate for the office of Alderman for the 20th Ward of the City of Chicago, shall be printed on the official ballot for the general municipal election.
Madam Chair, I'd like to advise the parties that pursuant to section 10-10.1 of the Illinois Election Code, we have a final decision ready for signing today. If the parties would like to wait a few minutes, a photocopy can be served upon them, and that would start the 5-day period for judicial review. If you don't wait for the copy, then we're going to put that copy into the mail, and pursuant to the statute, that then begins the clock, but you won't actually get the decision until you receive the mail. Can the parties stick around for the decision?
Thank you, I'll be here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
I will recall 19 EB ALD-146, Robert Bank and Ronald Ernst versus John Arena. Is anyone here on behalf of any of the parties? I will call 19 EB MUN-004 and 19 EB MUN-008, Shahan Kuriakosi, Harriet Mims, and Shantia Kindle versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon and Richard Barnett, versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon. Anybody here?
Pass them to them.
I will pass them for a little longer. And we will next go to the next item is a request for subpoenas. The case is 19 EB MUN-007, Harriet Mims and Shantia Kindle versus Dorothy Brown, Mayor, City of Chicago.
Okay, in this case, the candidate has requested to subpoena board documents and also submitted a request to subpoena the two objectors. When it comes to subpoenaing board documents, Rule 19 says no subpoena is necessary. The notice to produce is sufficient. The hearing officer has advised the candidate of that, told him he would recommend denying that request. As to subpoenaing the two objectors, that request was actually withdrawn by the candidate, although I was informed of that by the hearing officer, so it was not withdrawn in writing. But I would point out that the candidate's request to subpoena the two objectors in the Rule 19 request did not state the purpose or the relevance for why they were rejecting, or subpoenaing the objectors. There's apparently no claim that it's a bad faith or shotgun objection, so it probably would not be relevant to anything. I agree with the hearing officer to deny the candidate's subpoena requests in this case. There's a separate request from the objector, but maybe we deal with the candidate's request first.
Okay, is there a motion to deny the candidate's subpoena request?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The objectors filed a Rule 19 subpoena request for numerous petition circulators who are alleged to have information related to the dual signing allegations as to petition signers who signed for more than one candidate. The objectors would like to talk to these circulators, get testimony from the circulators about which petition was signed first that is relevant to an issue raised in the objector's petition. I agree with the hearing officer's recommendation to grant this request.
Okay. Is there a motion to grant the objector's subpoena request?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
There are then a number of subpoenas to be signed. I don't see the parties present, so we would have to sign those after. Oh, he is present. Okay.
Oh, you're kidding, right? I'm thinking it's- a stamp would be a good idea.
They granted.
Okay, so we will proceed now with consideration of certain hearing officer reports and proposed final decisions. And we will be taking some of these slightly out of order. In the following two cases, the candidate has withdrawn. And it is number 9 on the list, Gina Zuccaro and Emma Jean Robinson versus Teresa Rayford, 19 EBALD-063, alderman in the 28th Ward, and Corey D. Bilbrough and Earl C. Williams versus Jamal Green, 19 EBMUN-003, for the position of mayor. Is there a motion to find the objections moot due to the candidate's withdrawal?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes, and it is therefore ordered that these candidates' names shall not be printed on the official ballot for the general municipal election. In the following two cases, there have been objector withdrawals. In number 4 on the agenda, Leroy Davis versus Howard Brookins Jr., 19 EB ALD-017, Alderman 21st Ward, and Shajan Kuriakosi and Harriet Mims versus Lori Lightfoot. That is number 25 on the agenda, 19 EB MUN-011 for Mayor of the City of Chicago.
Madam Chair, there's a third case in this category I can just label. It's ALD 1030, 17 on the agenda.
So that is number 17, 19 EB ALD 130, Toriano Sanzone versus Michael Scott Jr., Alderman 24th Ward of the City of Chicago. Is there a motion to grant the objectors' respective motions to withdraw?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes, and the names of these candidates shall be printed on the official ballot for the general municipal election. Next item is relating to an objector withdrawal. That is number 20 on our list, David Herrera versus Angie Gonzalez. And on December 21st, the objector filed a motion to withdraw the objector's petition. Is there a motion to grant the objector's motion to withdraw and to dismiss the objector's petition? There is a pending case, so this is not a final.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. In the following cases, the hearing officer's report has found that the candidate has more than the minimum number of valid signatures required to be placed on the ballot. Number 2 on the agenda, Albert Burns versus Raynetta Greenleaf, 19 EB ALD-006, candidate for the 17th Ward. Number 7 on the agenda, Deborah Parker versus and Geralda Morgan versus Marvin McNeil, 19 EB ALD-046, candidate for the 21st Ward. Number 10 on the agenda, J.G. Ramirez versus Daniel Laspata, 19 EB ALD-068, candidate for the 1st Ward. George McKinley, and that is number 12 on the agenda, George McKinley versus Tara Stamps, 19 EB ALD-085, candidate for 37th Ward. Number 13 on the agenda, Clarence Deich versus Justin Freindler, 19 EB ALD-097, candidate for the 46th Ward. Number 17 on the
Madam
agenda.
Chair, we just took care of this in the last section.
That one we took for the
Mike
That's
is
the one I
back.
had out of the first.
Yes. Number 18 on the agenda, Robert Bank and Ronald Bernst versus John S.
You have to wait on that one too. This is motion for Rule 20.
Yes, we just did that one, right?
No, it's
Yep,
still,
it's passed, passed to Rule 20.
That's the rule,
So still
so we'll pass
pending.
this as well.
And we did the following, number 19 on the agenda. I
That's it
think
for this
those are it. And in each of these cases, is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's reporting recommendation and overrule the objector's petition and enter a final judgment in favor of the candidates?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the names of each of these candidates will be on the ballot for the general municipal election. The next item is number 14 on the agenda, Charles E. Shute versus Elizabeth Shidlowski, 19 EB ALD-108, with a related case, 19 ALD-092, candidate for the 44th Ward. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendation and overrule the objector's petition and enter a final judgment in favor of the candidate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. In the following cases, the candidates failed to comply with the election code with respect to the statement of economic interest. The first case is number 1 on the agenda, Arlis Guidice versus Charles N. Hughes, 19 EB ALD-004, candidate for the 23rd Ward. And number 6 on the agenda, Inglesa Tony versus Edward Ward, 19 EB ALD-042, 24th Ward. Number 8 on the agenda, Latoya L. Peterson versus Nathan Benjamin Myers, 19 EB ALD-057, with a related case, 19 EB ALD-007, candidate for the 49th Ward. And number 11 on the agenda, George McKinley versus Otis Perry, 19 EB ALD-083, candidate for the 37th Ward. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's recommendations and sustain the objector's petition and enter a final decision against the candidate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and each of the aforementioned candidates' names will not be placed on the ballot. In the following cases, the candidate has failed to submit the minimum number of valid signatures to be placed on the ballot. The first one is number 3 on the agenda, Randy Hitman versus Ralph Polikowski, 19 EB ALD-013, candidate for the 38th Ward. Number 5 on the agenda, Jorge Morales versus Alejandra Jorge Morales and Alejandra Hermosillo versus Yesenia Carrion, 19 EB ALD-027, candidate for the 10th Ward. Number 15 on the agenda, Nathaniel Moore versus Kim Curtis, 19 EB ALD-113, candidate for the 7th Ward. Number 23 on the agenda, Shajan Kuriakosi versus Harriet Mims and Shantia Kindle versus.
We have to wait on the Rule 20 on that.
And we have the last one as well. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's recommendations in the aforesaid cases, sustain the objector's petition, and enter a finding that they cannot be on the ballot?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the names of the aforementioned candidates shall not be placed on the ballot. Okay. In the following cases, the candidate failed to appear at the Electoral Board hearings And default judgment was entered into these cases by the hearing officer. Number 16 on our agenda, Rogelio Varela and Michael Pollack versus Walter Zarnecki, 19 EB ALD-119, candidate for the 35th Ward. And number 21 on the agenda, Corey D. Bilbrough and Earl C. Williams versus Roger Washington.
Present.
Okay. 19 EB MUN-002, candidate for mayor. You are?
Roger Washington.
You are Roger Washington?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Washington, you didn't file a Rule 20 motion to appear before us and contest the hearing officer's decision.
Yes, ma'am.
You did not, or
I
you
did. I did.
And when did you file that?
Today.
Let's see, the hearing officer's report.
December 27th. I'm here. For the objectors in case he showed up.
Oh, okay. The decision, the hearing officer's decision was filed December 27th. You had to have filed that Rule 20, Mr. Lesker? Is it
By the 5 p.m. the next day.
by 5 p.m. on December 28th. So you filed your request for a Rule 20 hearing too late.
Was he, I presume, was given proper service for the initial hearing?
He did, yeah.
I wasn't served.
He wasn't served until 13th, I believe.
I wasn't served at all.
It was
If I may, according to the hearing officer's report.
okay, let's,
Pulling it up.
why don't both of you come up here for a minute? Let me just, divide this up because,
You've got a pending motion. Why don't you strike this from the pending motion? We'll deal with those cases and then address this matter.
well, let me just, let me start anew here. There is a default judgment in the case of Rogelio Varela and Michael Pollack versus Walter Zarnecki, candidate 19 EB ALD-119, candidate for the 35th Ward. The hearing officer determined that the candidate was in default. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and sustain the objector's petition and enter a final default judgment against the candidate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes, and it is therefore ordered that the name of Walter Zarnecki, candidate for the 35th Ward, Walter Zarnecki's name shall not be placed on the ballot. Now, let's deal with 19 EB MUN-002, Corey Bilbrough and Earl Williams Sr. versus Roger Washington, candidate for mayor. Even though, you know, we're not supposed to handle this, there's, supposedly you were served. Or Mr. Lasker, can
So
you
it's a-
summarize?
Yeah, the record now shows we've got certified mail service that was accomplished on December 15th. Sheriff's service was accomplished on December 18th. Excuse me, 17th. The objector failed to appear on the 10th, on the 13th, and on the 19th. Did not file an appearance until after he was served with the hearing officer's recommendation. In this case, the objectors also had submitted, before the hearing officer entered the default judgment, they had submitted evidence tending to show that the candidate was aware of the proceedings, the objections filed against him, having been quoted in a newspaper article, having done Facebook posts stating that there were objections filed against him. So the hearing officer found that there was no good faith for his delay. As the candidates are informed when they file their nomination papers, the Electoral Board has had its agendas publicly available on its website and posted at its offices here for this entire Electoral Board process. And just, we're on January 2nd for a ballot that needs to get printed, and today would essentially be day one of this case.
I have a question. Adam, you said you were served mail, certified mail, sheriff service, and then the subsequent default judgment, the hearing officer recommendation was served as well?
Yes.
All to the same address?
The hearing officer's recommendation, I believe, was served to the email address that he left with the filed nomination papers. Is that correct? You received
I
an email?
I did not get permission to be emailed or faxed anything.
Well, did you put
You
your
had not
email
filed an
down?
appearance
I
by
mean,
then, so
did you
that was the
put
best
your
way.
email address on any Board of Election documents? You must have.
Yes, ma'am.
If you do that, I mean, you can't just say, I don't give you permission. I mean, as I think you were here before when we were talking about how important it is to expedite these cases and do these things as quickly and efficiently as possible,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Washington.
And I totally understand, man, where you're coming from. I've been through the process before. I was never served. I'm always available on the Chicago police officer, my public record. I'm always around. I did not get served. And saying that, I knew because of social media. That's hearsay. Rumors are spreading. If we go by rumors, then everybody would be guilty. I was not properly served.
Well,
I notified.
did you receive the certified letter?
No, ma'am. I
Did
received
you-
nothing.
Were you served by the sheriff?
No, ma'am.
Can I see the signature?
Mhm.
And it says I have to probably be served. I was not served at all.
I'll also point out, when I filed my motion to default in this case on the morning of December 17th, it was emailed to Cappuccino42, David Gmail, the email that he had listed when he filed his nominating petitions.
Did
So
you
he
get,
was-
I don't
emails?
check. The only email I
Mr.
got was,
Washington,
pardon
did
me?
you get those emails?
The only email I received, ma'am, was from the Board of Elections on the 28th.
So you didn't get any certified mail, you didn't get the sheriff's?
No, ma'am.
Can I ask you? This certified letter was sent to, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. What's your address?
1539 South Keckville Avenue.
Okay, that's the address that this was delivered to. Someone in the residence starts with initial letter L.
Yeah, what was the date again?
Sure, where's the date?
December 15th.
December 15th at 1:46.
We weren't even at home that day. We
Um,
were out celebrating my father-in-law's birthday. No one signed for anything in my house.
you have someone in your household whose initial starts with letter L?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
My wife,
And what's the name?
Lenise R. Washington,
Spell it for me.
Lanise. And she did not sign. I promise you that. That's my word. My right hand to God. She did not sign
We have a
anything.
signature here with a signature that could be replicated as or identified as Lenise Washington from the signature on the form.
But I
That's a
can,
matter of fact, that's all I'm saying.
I can prove that she did not sign.
This Electoral Board has ruled many times in the past that unavailability of service is not grounds. I mean, we do attempt re-services. That was done in this case. The candidate's first attempt at personal service by the sheriff was on December 6th, that there was nobody home. When he failed to show up at the December 10th hearing, that it was sent out for re-service. That re-service was successful. There was another hearing conducted 2 days after he was served by the sheriff. 5 days after he was served by certified mail. He still did not attend that hearing. The first time he filed an appearance was the day after the hearing officer's recommendation was sent to his email address. First time he's appeared for a hearing is today. He's now claiming that he wasn't available for service on the days that the sheriff went there and the certified mail arrived, even though we have a signature on the certified mail. And the statement from the sheriff that they personally delivered a copy with the defendant respondent personally and by informing defendant respondents of its contents. Now, that could have been left with an adult at his address, but that still qualifies as service.
No,
That would
absolutely not.
Yeah,
That's the December 17th service for the
December
sheriff,
sure.
17th, correct,
Yeah.
the sheriff.
Yeah.
for a
Absolutely.
hearing on the 19th.
To the same address, 1539 Kevville?
That is correct, which is the address listed on his nominating petitions. The email address is what was listed when he filed his nominating petitions. So the board made, in the absence of an appearance filed by the party, the board made its best effort it could to send the decision to the email address he provided.
Well,
I was served in the past, and they were able to get in contact with me. Why not this time? I was served twice in previous elections, and showed up in the period because I was served. They were able to give me that time. Why were they able to give me this time?
Well, my question to you, Mr. Washington,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
if you've been through this process twice before, and you know how quickly it goes, why didn't you call
Ma'am,
the board's offices to find out what was, and why didn't you go on the website where we have the schedule of the hearings, and your name would have been there, your case would have been there?
ma'am, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. These last couple of months on the department has been real rough. I'm a peer support officer. I've encountered four deaths and a suicide yesterday, and that's for my time being. I'm the officer that has to go to the house to console the families and put the funeral arrangement together, things of that nature. My time was solely on policing and taking care of my friends and my coworkers. I did not evade or try to hide. I was always available. The rules say that I have to be served and notified, and I just wasn't.
Well,
And it's not my fault, and no one at my house signed for anything.
well, Mr. Washington, I certainly feel for you and everything, you know, you have gone through it in your job, but we do have our rules here, and I think that we have sufficient evidence to show that you were put on notice, and for those reasons, please, I would entertain a motion to adopt the hearing officer's recommendation.
Can I ask one
Yes.
point? Did Mr. Lassie, do you have anything you want to add for the record?
No, just that, you know, we have the precedent, the Blackstein case, and in that case, there may not even have been service, but in that case, there was actual knowledge, and in this case, in addition to the actual service, he had knowledge as evidenced by his social media and his statements to the Chicago Reader.
Those were rumors. I mean, they play stuff on social media. The video stated that Willie Wilson did not want any other black candidates on the ballot, and he was going to challenge them. That was the video that started all of this, and I just responded to what I heard on the video. I didn't know, per se, that I was challenged. I just heard what Willie Wilson said on video, and this is where all that stemmed from.
Well, Mr. Washington, like I said, you filed your petition, you knew there were objections. You could have gone on our website and just looked it up, and you would have seen the dates, the hearing dates. In a worst case scenario, you know, is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's recommendations and enter a default judgment against the candidate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes.
Because we have the parties present, I'd like to offer that we can sign the decision now. It's a little advantage to the parties. If you stay and wait for a copy, you can get the decision right now rather than waiting for it in the mail. Either way, the clock will start today under section 10-10.1, the election code for 5-day periods where you receive judicial review. Place the decision in the mail today if you want to pick it up.
Counsel?
My name, first name Pericles, Pericles, last name Abbasi, Abasi, on behalf of the objectors.
Mr.
Thank you.
I think, except for recalling the Rule 20s, I think we've gone through our list.
I agree.
Okay, just checking. I will recall 19 EB ALD-146, Robert Bank and Ronald Ernst versus John Arena, candidate for Alderman 45th Ward. Is anyone here? Going once, going twice?
Move for dismiss for warrant of prosecution.
Second.
The motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then we will now, take the,
Number 18.
let's see, it's 18. Okay. And is there a motion to adopt in Robert Bank and Ronald Ernst versus John Arena, 19 EB ALD 146? Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommended decision and overrule the objectors? Well, is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommended decision?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the name of John Arena shall be placed on the ballot. Next case is 19 EB-MUN-004, Shahan Koryakowski, Harriet Mims, and Shantia Kindle versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, and 19 EB-MUN-008, Richard Barnett versus Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, mayor, candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago. Is anyone here? Going twice, anybody here? There is no response. Is there a motion to strike the Rule 20?
So moved. For lack of prosecution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and Rule 20 motion is stricken. Now we'll go on to the same matter, two matters, 19 EB-MUN-004 and 19 EB-MUN-008, both relating to Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, candidate for mayor. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's recommendations and to sustain the objector's petition on the issue of insufficient petition signatures due to the petitions having been bound in 17 separate volumes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the name of Catherine Brown D. Tycoon shall not be placed on the ballot. Mr. Lasker, does that conclude our business for today?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I think we have one more. Did we do number 25?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to point out for the record on the dismissal of those, it's striking the motion of Rule 20s, it's now 3:42 p.m.
Thank you. My notes reflect that one of the cases, ALD 149, Kevin Bailey versus Nicole Johnson, we overruled the Rule 20. We denied the Rule 20, but did not enter the final decision.
No, she entered, she made a motion saying that it should be, placed on the ballot. Okay. She did.
In that case,
We could,
in that
We'll
case,
do it again, we'll
addressed
do
all.
it again for the record, but I recall
I
hearing.
just missed making a note of it. In that case, we have addressed all of the matters.
That would be number 19. I'd be willing to do it again.
just to play it safe.
Belt and suspenders, so.
Kevin Bailey versus Nicole Johnson, 19 EB-ALD-149, candidate for the 20th Ward. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommended decision?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there any public comment at this time? I do not hear any requests for public comment. Mr. Lasker, we have a tentative, electoral board date for, January 8th.
That is correct, Tuesday, January 8th.
Okay, and we will provide the exact time on our forthcoming agenda. In the meantime,
For the morning?
Yes, because we also have a regular board, which I'll ask you that.
is there a motion to recess until January 8th, 2019?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and we are recessed.
Waiting that until you sign them all?
Yeah, we got it.
You have to sign them all in. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, you have to film us signing it all.
And you need to give me that Diet Coke Zero.
Here, I got it.
Hang on, I'll just send it like that. Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
All right. Ask you something over there. Oh, okay. All right, just so I understand. He's not unavailable for me. He's clearly off. And then, that's all I care about is the, I don't care about, but the ones that they asked me to shoot about. And Jamal Green already was off.
Right, but this
Today was sort of
formally
formalized,
adopts
okay. Right, okay. As opposed to just telling us.
she's off again in this case.
Okay.
So, and again, that objection is withdrawn, but now they formally accepted the withdrawal of that objection.
Well, luckily, I actually never talked about it. Thanks, Jim. Sure. And this one, what that not that it matters, I mean.
Well, the objection is withdrawn, but there's another. So I gotta check whether both of those are, there were actually two other objections. 048 and 093. So this one, if these two objections were overruled or withdrawn or whatever, then, yeah. Or three. Three objections. So this candidate may be on the ballot. Or it might be one of these, or. You have a good New Year?
Yes.
And the unit above you?
Well, yes, sir. Problem.
Yeah. We had a chance. We had that happen once, because like the laundry rooms were on top, directly on top of each other, probably plumbing simplicity. And one morning we woke up and it sounded like someone had turned on a sink on high. And my light was filling up.
Comes out because that's where the holes are. Yeah, that's the same thing.
I was watching this. It was like, where do I find a tub big enough to catch all this stuff? And it turns out like the washer drain was totally clogged. So they were out of the house, they were at work, and it was probably like this much water. And it was a matter of just like, running it to the bathroom, putting it back under there.